Greetings, fellow Rotoballers, and welcome back to our League Winners preseason extravaganza. I'm Joey Christopoulos, my co-host David Rispoli, and this is one of our multi-part series. This one, wide receiver edition. These are our favorite players that look, they might not be studs. They aren't exactly deep sleepers, but if you can find them at the right price, they can, in fact, turn into league winners in the 2022 season. Comment and question below, and we will tell you if your selection is a league winner for this year. Dave, this is the big one, baby. It's the wide receivers. It's the deepest pool of the bunch. There's a lot of great choices in here. I'm ready to rock and roll. How about you?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, potentially Cooper Kupp was the league winner last year. So if you can find that diamond in the rough at wide receiver in those mid to late rounds, you going straight to the top.
Yeah, so let's find out who's this year's Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel. Let's try and figure it out right now. I'm not saying this guy's going to be a top 5 guy, but I just really love his value right now and could possibly be a wide receiver 1 in an offense that I think they have a certain quarterback who's expecting a lot of them this year. So at wide receiver 37, 89th overall, according to fantasypros.com, I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman. Second-year wide receiver, 46 catches last year for only 515 yards, only 1 touchdown. But look, he got off to a slow start. He did not start the season. We all know how detrimental that can be to rookie wide receivers. But 5 of his last 11 games, he had 50 or more receiving yards. And Dave, here's my favorite part right now. If you match up some of his stuff with the rookie receivers, his numbers aren't that dissimilar, and yet he averaged only 59% of the snaps during the first 8 games of the year. The last 4 games of the year, he averaged 86% of the snaps, but none of them were with Lamar Jackson. They were all with Tyler Huntley. I'm saying if you keep him on the field for that amount of time, I think that production is going to go up. I like Rashad Bateman a whole lot this year.
I've been talking a lot about Rashad Bateman on Rotoballer's TikTok account, which if you're not following us and you're on TikTok, don't worry, I won't tell anybody. Follow us at Rotoballer NFL on TikTok. But here's the thing, Joey, the trolls came after me for all my Bateman videos, and they all have the same argument. It's that Bateman will never be a top dog because the Ravens run the ball too much. They don't throw enough. There's not enough volume for him to succeed in fantasy. And look, if that's the case, then I hope you're also not going to draft A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, or any Broncos receiver, because all those teams ran the ball at a higher percentage than the Ravens last year. It's a dumb argument for those players. It's a dumb argument for Rashad Bateman. The only thing that matters is if those targets are concentrated. And in the Ravens, what I love is it couldn't be any more concentrated. This is straight orange juice, baby. This is 2 guys. It's Mark Andrews, it's Rashad Bateman, and then it's some guy named Devin Duvernay and Prochet, who are going to have very small target percentages.
Are those fragrances, Dave, or are those players?
Oh, Duvernay. That's beautiful. Oh, no, it's actually Prochet. So it sounds like crochet. So even all that aside, when Marquise Brown was on the team, Bateman was on pace for 106 targets. Marquise Brown is gone. 126 vacated targets. Andrews already led every single tight end in targets. There's no way his gets that much higher. I think a lot of that's going to go to Bateman, and they let Marquise Brown go, Joey, because they knew they had a true Alpha X finally.
And my favorite part about, I think, Rashad Bateman heading into this year is a stat that you don't think you see a lot from rookie wide receivers, is that last year of those 46 catches that he had, 29 of them, Dave, went for first downs. That's a trust level right there that I think is a little bit elevated for a rookie wide receiver. And now I think that trust level can be built with Lamar Jackson. That's, on 3rd and 8, him getting a couple extra yards. That's, trusting a guy maybe in double coverage across the middle to pick up a tough catch. I just like that a whole lot. At wide receiver 37, 89th overall, you could be looking at a guy that could possibly be a flex for you or a very solid wide receiver 4 or 5 on your team. I like that a whole lot. Dave, let's move on to a next wide receiver here. Kind of embattled. We made fun of him a lot in the offseason, but now that he's gotten his money and he got way overpaid, I'm kind of looking at it and saying to myself, you know what? I kind of want to draft this dude. I think it's going to work out. It's Christian Kirk, wide receiver 43, 107th overall. What do you like about Christian Kirk, Dave?
This is the cheapest wide receiver 1 you can get in fantasy drafts right now, Joey. And
the cheapest $20 million wide receiver.
Hey, basically. We talk about this all the time on this exact segment. Follow the money, okay? You want to see how a team views who the alpha is? Who'd they pay? Who'd they make one of the richest wide receivers in the NFL? Couple things I also like: the pairing of Lawrence and Christian Kirk. I actually think this is a good pairing because Lawrence targeted wide receivers 65% of the time in 2021, the third highest target rate for wide receivers in the NFL. Second most receiving yards amongst all slot receivers, Christian Kirk. He's that rare, true vertical slot guy. I think that's going to pair well with Lawrence's arms. And we think the Jags are going to be a lot better. They have an improved O-line. That means more time for T-Law to throw deep to Kirk. And you look outside of Kirk, the rest of the Jags receivers are just that, Jags. Nobody. Okay. Marvin Jones, I love the guy, but last year took a big step back, could not get open. None of their receivers could. I think it's going to be Kirk early and often.
Well, and here's also why I think it's going to be Kirk early and often is if you look back historically through Doug Peterson's offenses, they highly featured the slot wide receiver, which is why I think they probably went out and overpaid for him the way that they did. Dave, I'm going to bring up a ghost from the fantasy past right now. 2016 Jordan Matthews. Do you all remember that craze right now? Well, that is exactly the type of production. Jordan Matthews did not last very long in the league, but I think it was because of Doug Peterson. 2016 Matthews, 73 receptions, 804 yards. And then the next year they drafted Aguilar, who got 824 yards and 8 touchdowns, and Aguilar got some money and went off and became whatever. This is something that I think Christian Kirk can easily do. I think he's going to get 1,000 receiving yards this year, Dave. I like 7, 8, 9 touchdowns for Christian Kirk. And you mentioned the deep ball accuracy with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence last year on deep balls had a 69.9% target rate accuracy on his deep balls. Want to know what the problem was, Dave? The Jaguars receivers caught the ball only at a 40.4% rate of the time. I call that on the receivers, not on the accuracy of the target rate of Trevor Lawrence. Enter Christian Kirk. And then my final part about it, he had 7 games last year of 70-plus receiving yards. I like that floor. And on top of it, last season he averaged 9.5 yards per target. Over 13 in 6 different games he had that type of target. And then he also caught 74.7% of the passes thrown his way when he was targeted over 9 yards. I think this is suddenly a match made in heaven. I don't think he's worth $20 million, but I do think he is worth a bargain of value at wide receiver 43 in your fantasy roster. Can easily be a wide receiver 3 in my opinion. I think Christian Kirk is an easy call. Dave, let's go even further down the trough right now. Let's find a real diamond in the rough. A guy that could really possibly be a league winner for you. I'm going with KJ Osborne on the Minnesota Vikings. Wide receiver 69, 184th overall. Again, this is a guy who, when people are taking kickers, defenses, maybe looking for their tight end off the board, you could possibly find a wide receiver 4 or 5 with KJ Osborne. And the reason why I like him so much is because of Adam Thielen is 31. He's missed 11 games over his last 3 seasons. Look, if Adam Thielen is on the field, him and Kirk Cousins have a relationship and a chemistry that cannot be denied. But I do like the fact that KJ Osborne has built himself up from training camp darling to actual role player on this team. He had 655 yards last year with 7 touchdowns. And my favorite part is Kevin O'Connell coming over as the offensive coordinator of the Rams, now at the Vikings. The Rams last year used 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers on the field, a league high 86% of the time. So I see a snap increase for KJ Osborne. I see possibly a target increase for KJ Osborne. He's only 25 years old. And guess what? If Thielen is banged up, now all of a sudden I see him paired with Justin Jefferson. Wide receiver 69, Dave, I see a lot of guys that are going ahead of him that might not be able to get as much opportunity as KJ Osborne is about to get.
Yeah, this is the definition of a lottery ticket. This is a straight boom bust pick, but you're latching onto a great offense and you're latching onto that 3 role behind a guy like you mentioned who's been oft injured and maybe taking a step back, and maybe they switch it up. We don't really know who's going to be in the slot constantly. They've already been like all these rumors that Justin Jefferson's going to be moving in the slot, which could mean that on one side you have Adam Thielen, on the other side you have KJ Osborne. Like, can Adam Thielen beat press man coverage at this point in his career on the other side? Probably not. I think KJ Osborne can, and he's going to be on the other side. He averaged 12 half PPR points per game from weeks 13 to 17. That's when he really got his shot. He's a guy who slowly has been going like this. I say you hop on and see where the ceiling is.
Dave, before we get out of here, like any NFL draft, like any NFL fantasy season, there's tons of fun rookie wide receivers to keep an eye on. This year in particular, Dave, a ton were flying off the board in the first round and, of course, the second and third round. But just throw one out there right now. Is there a wide receiver rookie right now that you're looking at and you're saying this guy can be a real difference maker? Maybe not a Jamar Chase level, but maybe more that Devontae Smith level. Where do you have some of these guys and who do you like the most?
Yeah, I don't think there is Jamar Chase in this year's draft class. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's just a straight fact. But if there's one guy who I think has the highest ceiling amongst the rookies as far as where he landed, the kind of player he is, the quarterback he's paired with, for me, it's Chris Olave. You're getting him at a really nice discount right now. And I just think he fits Winston's strengths. Olave wrapped up his 2021 season in the 96th percentile in separation versus single coverage. He caught 7 touchdowns on throws of 20-plus air yards. This guy gets open at will, and he catches bombs. I think that's perfect for old Jameis chucking up Winston. And here's the other thing. You're drafting him at his floor. You're drafting him as the Saints' number 2 or 3 option, which I still think will be a weekly flex play in good matchups. But if, and it's a huge if, Michael Thomas plays, let's say he doesn't play, I think Olave would be first on the team in targets. Like Jarvis Landry is just a bit player, slot guy, but I think they moved up in the draft to get their guy, Chris Olave. I think it was half insurance for Mike Thomas and half, even if Mike Thomas plays. So here we go. We just talked about where the pieces are moving in an offense. Jarvis Landry, is he going to play outside? No. Where did Mike Thomas do most of his damage? Out of the slot. So that means if all 3 are playing, they're pushing Mike Thomas to the side, a guy who hasn't played football in 2 years, Joe. Do we know he can still beat press man coverage? I don't know. I know who can. Chris Olave, ladies and gentlemen. This is a guy who was the most pro-ready in my eyes coming out of this class. I love the landing spot. I think the sky's the limit.
And I just think the move is something that just says, I think Chris Olave is going to get you at least 6 touchdowns this year, right? And in terms of trying to fill out your bench and find the right guys to do that, it's great to have guys with some receptions, but you can only have, 6 receptions for 43 yards and only get you so far, right? You need to have a guy that finds the end zone. And I think you just illustrated why that might possibly happen. My guy, Dave, is, look, let me lay out a case for you right now. So this guy enters the draft. By and large, all the scouts say that he is one of the smartest route runners, one of the most instinctive guys, has the speed to match, but the only problem is he doesn't necessarily have the size.
Question.
Yeah.
Were there any fantasy analysts that were like really into him?
There were. They're friends of mine. Italian guys. I don't know. They work in these the murky backfields, if you will.
Okay.
Call back to another video that we did.
Okay.
And this one particular guy was really on board with him, and I'm on board with him too as well because he's wide receiver 63 at 142 overall. And what if I told you that this guy, this smart, instinctive slot receiver with a ton of speed, went to a place like Kansas City. To play with a guy like Andy Reid and a guy like Patrick Mahomes. This is Sky Moore, people. And look, I'm not saying – and look, this was kind of like my obsession last year was Rondale Moore. And we saw Rondale Moore kind of pop for those first couple weeks, and then he really didn't do anything the rest of the year. So I'm saying Sky Moore is going to be a little bit more of a flyer. Probably going to have some patience and stash him on your bench. I just love the fit with the player right now. And if you look at the personnel, they've kind of overturned that room a little bit. No more Tyreek Hill. They brought in Marquez Valdez-Scantling as the deep threat. We'll see how that goes. And then Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to have more of a Swiss Army knife type of role. He's going to be a great blocker in the run game. I think he's going to be able to maybe help them out on some third downs. But Dave, without a Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs have to get a little more creative, right? So I'm thinking end arounds. I'm thinking bubble screens. I'm thinking misdirection. I'm thinking quick hits. And what gets that done more than Sky Moore? And when we're running a seam route with a seam route with Travis Kelce, I think Sky Moore is now the guy on the other side of the field trying to maybe break someone now deep. We've seen a lot of stuff over the offseason about how Patrick Mahomes deals with 2 high safety versus single high safety. I think after that year of those growing pains a little bit, I think they're going to kind of show a new look to this offense, and I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to distribute the ball, and it doesn't matter whether you're a rookie or not. I think all that matters is if you're in the right place at the right time. I just think Sky Moore is going to be that guy. You know, it's going to be a little bit of a dart throw, right? Like it's going to be one of those 3 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown type thing, a very Deshaun Jackson-like type. But look, to be honest, everyone drafts Deshaun Jackson every single year because what he can possibly do in a game at any time. And from a rookie standpoint, I like that a lot. And I love the value, too, as well, because I don't think anyone's going to touch him. You can pick him up at the end of drafts if you want.
Yeah, right now he's the 4th Chiefs wide receiver being drafted. And I don't know, Joe. I mean, here's the thing.
So Valdez-Scantling, Juju, and McCole Hardman, correct?
Yeah, and Juju is actually going first. And I want to. This isn't a show about Juju Smith-Schuster, but it should be noted that I don't think we know how the Chiefs are going to use Juju Smith-Schuster, and I don't think the Chiefs know because they paid him like they don't know. They gave him a 1-year deal. And
then they drafted Sky Moore, Dave.
And then they drafted Sky Moore. And they paid Marquez Valdez-Scantling a 3-year deal and a ton of money. We don't know what McCole Hardman is. We've seen him. We're hearing rumblings in camp that he's going to be their number 1. Not buying it. To me,
we did that last year.
Yeah. To me, Sky Moore reeks of last year's Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy who was like a draft nerd darling, took a while, will probably end up on your waiver wire. And then as injuries pile up, because Juju Smith-Schuster has not played a full season in quite some time, or as pieces start to move, or as Andy Reid starts to move around his pieces and work his magic, we're going to see Sky Moore in the later half just take off. I love the dude. I could not believe that the Bears passed him up. And I think we're going to be watching our TVs, kicking ourselves once again as we watch Sky Moore and Patrick Mahomes create a very special bond. Because, as you mentioned, Joey, Tyreek Hill did a lot for the Chiefs. He wasn't just a burner. He did everything. He was an end-around guy. And do we even know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be like a big pass catcher or catching screen passes or isn't a total bust? If that's the case, wheels up Sky Moore.
Yeah, maybe I could put a button on this rookie wide receiver thing too, as well as my piece of advice. And let's just call this the Marquez Callaway rule, Dave, or the Robert Meacham rule, Dave, of our yesteryear. Is I kind of philosophically look at it like this. We're taping this in July right now. So keep in mind as you're watching and going throughout training camp, definitely keep an eye on how guys like Olave are doing, how Sky Moore is doing, who's showing out in camp. That is an important aspect of whether you want to draft these guys or not. But remember, once you draft them, you have to be patient that first month. It's not necessarily going to pop right away. And Dave, you were illustrating it perfectly, is that Amon-Ra St. Brown is the perfect example. This is a guy who dominated training camp, showed up for week 1 and disappeared for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then finally worked his way back up into the game plan, and by the end of the year was their number 1 wide receiver. I'm not saying that'll be the exact storyline for a guy like Sky Moore or Chris Olave, but you have to have patience with these guys, even if they do show out in training camp, because sometimes it just takes them a little while to kind of get in the mix a little bit. You blow an assignment, or if you're not great at blocking, it's going to keep you off the field. We talk about it with rookie tight ends all the time. I would apply that to rookie wide receivers as well.
Absolutely, Joey. And if you do that, and if you have patience and you take one of these guys, you might just have a league winner.
Hey, that'll do it. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Make sure you watch all of our QB, RB, and tight end league winners too as well. Comment and question below. Thank you for checking this out. Joey Christopoulos, Dave Rispoli. We'll see you when the season starts. Happy drafting, everybody.
Win that league.